Hello and welcome to Movie Recap HD. The superheroes are exiled and forced to show their value to society after a mission during which they partially destroyed the city. We shall review the plot of Incredibles 2 in this article from 2018. Tony Ryder and Rick Dicker are questioning each other. After inviting Violet to go to the movies the following weekend, the lad is perplexed and recounts an incident that happened with a student from his school at the end of class. In the school's parking lot, an odd incident occurred. Tony was nearly crushed as a supervillain unexpectedly materialized while he was running from the Underminer. He saw an opportunity to flee as a gang of superheroes suddenly came but opted to turn around after hearing a familiar voice. Tony realized that this was Violet, the girl in his class that he was in love with, as the young woman flung her mask on the ground, angry that she had been left to care for the infant while the rest of the troop was fighting the enemy. The female tries to defend herself after realizing that her cover has been exposed, but the lad was afraid and fled. Tony replies that he hasn't yet got the bravery to discuss the occurrence with other people when Rick inquires as to whether he has told anybody else about the incident. The man then makes the boy forget about that incident using a gadget. After Tony left, the Incredible family faced significant difficulties while the fight against the Underminer content continued. They failed to prevent the bad guy from stealing all the money from the bank vault and destroying a portion of the city. As Mr. Incredible sucked up all the cash, the Underminer was permitted to flee, thus aggravating the situation. After being turned on, the enormous excavator begins to move autonomously around the city and destroy a bridge, but Frozone intervenes in time to save the train. Dash is occupied attempting to keep the occupants safe, so Bob asks his wife for assistance in stopping that creature while he keeps it away from the buildings. The boy recently helped a senior citizen. The young heroine also wants to take the chance to use her talents and save the city, so babysitting is not in her plans when Violet shows up and hands Jack over to him. Elastigirl stops fresh victims from being made following the machine's destruction as Mr. Incredible continues to try to stop it. As today's top superheroes pass by his side, Bob hands the youngster back to Violet after delivering Jack to his father. Winston is thrilled on a mission and instructs his driver to follow them with the husband and the wife. Her's the girl, and the girl use her to hide her family from the explosion all around when her husband Elastigirl manages to stop the boiler and the Moss Violet and Heat pair. Several police vehicles arrive, and Frozone flees. Because the superhero's actions are against the law, the police had to take the Incredible away. He is interrogated and accused of greater damage to the city as we capture the Underminer according to the policeman. If the heroes had not intervened, less damage would have occurred and the couple would have been arrested if not for Rick's intervention. Mr. Winston's driver finally manages to locate Frozonpo and offers him the opportunity to legalize the superhero profession at the police station. The family had to spend the trip in a motel because their home had been damaged by a missile on a previous operation, leaving them destitute. Bob approaches Rick for assistance in resolving this after Violet discloses that her buddy saw her without a mask. Rick informed them that the legislators had ended the superhero protection program and that the best he could offer them was 2 more weeks of lodging at that motel. This is how Tony's memory was erased before he departed. As the family gathers for supper, the buddies bid each other farewell. When they talk about the errors they made that day, Violet complains that it is unfair that she must stay with Jack while her parents enjoy themselves. Helen claims that starting on that day, their superhero adventures came to a stop. Bob, however, disagrees because he enjoys having superhuman abilities and makes use of them to assist others. The pair meets by the pool's side to discuss their next course of action, and they come to the conclusion that returning to their previous lives is their only option. Helen will remain at home and look after the kids while Bob returns to his dull job. The couple hears one another's professions during the talk. He hears a quarrel and a noise. Then Eddie gets ready for the battle before Lucy notifies them they've been reached. The trio has gained support from Winston DeVore, a billionaire who wants to assist them in making their vocation as a superhero lawful. Bob is thrilled to hear that Lucius is headed there right then, but Helen responds that they had made plans to meet at the estate, and Lucius tells his companions to dress in their earlier uniforms. Violet was upset to see her parents leave with uniforms under their jackets because Winston seemed like a genuinely sentimental guy. Soon after the group enters the mansion, Violet recognizes something is off. Inside the mansion when Winston appears, he presents Evelyn as first his sister, then himself. They arrive in them. A billionaire outlines how he plans to help restore superheroes' positive reputation. He claims that because his father contributed a sizable portion of his wealth to the cause of the hero, he got to know a number of them. To contact for assistance in the event of an emergency, the man installed a phone in his home. His father phoned the superheroes after bandits came into the mansion one day, but no one responded because the heroes were no longer legal. The bandits then shot the man who was making the call months later. Mrs. DeVore's anguish over her loss caused her to pass away. Winston believes that the state is to blame for his father's passing since it drove the heroes into hiding and prevented them from being there to defend him. Evelyn, however, is of the opinion that her parents could have entered the hidden room instead of waiting for assistance, and that if they had done so, her father would not have perished. Even though Winston and his sister don't always agree, they have succeeded in making Winston's father's former company, DevTech, the largest telecom corporation in the world. Winston is in charge of sales while Evelyn develops new products and technologies. The man brings the superheroes into the boardroom and says that altering their worldview is the best way to improve their standing in society. The purpose is to demonstrate the practical side of the entire procedure, from pursuing to apprehending the criminals. In order to accomplish this, the heroes will need to put micro cameras, which Evelyn created and, despite their small size, can capture high-quality images, on their uniforms. Mr. Incredible declares that he is prepared to begin because he is feeling enthusiastic, but Winston tells him some news that makes him unable to carry out the first task. Elastigirl, in his opinion, is the greatest choice. The data from Elastigirl shows that she did much less damage on her missions compared to Mr. Incredible and Frozone after the release made with the superheroine, and the man came to this conclusion after his sister calculated the cost-benefit of the last 5 years before the superheroes were forced into hiding. Winston hopes that the government will legalize the activity of heroes, at which point everyone will be able to work together once more. Because he feels like the greatest hero alive, Bob is furious that he was passed over for the first mission. However, in the end, he must swallow his pride and go along with the businessman's plan. However, her husband is able to persuade her to join the mission by reminding her that children have superpowers, and if superheroes are legalized, they will have the option to practice this profession one day. The problem is that Helen is unsure whether to accept this proposal because her top priority is to protect her children. The Incredible family is sent to one of Winston's houses the following morning until they can locate a place to live. The party is impressed when they first enter the mansion, and Dash immediately goes looking for the boys' remote control after learning that the home is entirely automated. But after tidying up the mess, things spiral out of hand when furniture starts dropping into the pool. Helen puts on the new uniform that DevTech gave for her. Even though she doesn't like the new attire, she chooses to wear it in the garage for the time being. She discovers that her infamous stretch motorcycle is now considerably more contemporary and up to date. She has trouble riding it because she hasn't used it in a while, but she is confident that she will soon get the feel of it. The protagonist is pleased to see that she still has many fans all across the world as she rides her bike through the streets. Moments later, Bob is at home in his new role as caregiver of the children after breakfast. Violet and Dash's leave for school, and the man will have to look after Jack all day. Elastigirl is in an alley in the new urban the police radio when she receives a call. Winston accompanies the woman to the neighboring town, which is known for having a high crime rate. She heads straight for the scene. The mayor is launching a new train, but as soon as he pushes the accelerator, Helen notices that something is amiss since the vehicle starts to travel backward. There are only 40 kilometers of track left? And the train has already accelerated to 160 kilometers per hour, therefore the heroine must rush to stop the train in time. To catch up, Elastigirl rides her motorcycle underneath the structures. However, when she is about to enter a small tunnel with the railway, she must abandon the car and devise a quick plan to stop the train. The only alternative left to her is to release the wagons and use her body as a parachute to slow down the train. Her idea succeeds, and the train is able to come to a stop. Immediately after she gets inside the automobile and approaches the precipice, the female driver recognizes that this was an attack in broad daylight and that a new villain has emerged to cause harm to the city. When he eventually gets Jack to sleep, Bob settles down in front of the TV to take a nap as Violet prepares to go to the movies with Tony for their first date. However, Dash shows up and requests assistance with his arithmetic assignment. Bob tries to assist him in his studies, but soon learns that, because it has been so long since he graduated from school, he has forgotten how to solve several problems. The youngster claims that he would rather wait for his mother to pick him up and begin teaching. As a result of his refusal to acknowledge Helen's superiority over him, Bob becomes even more irate. Jack is already awake, and the hero is so exhausted that he nods off, when all of a sudden, he hears a noise coming from the TV. While reading him a bedtime story once more, a few minutes later, Bob places his son in his crib and makes sure by using a table he doesn't leave as he makes his way to his room. Instead, he notices that Violet skipped her date. He asks what happened, but the girl won't answer. After some time has passed, Jack enters the living room and switches on the TV. While watching a police program on the couch with his infant son and fatigued, Bob notices a raccoon rummaging through the trash outside the house. He believes him to be a thief, so the youngster uses his abilities to break the door's glass. He then uses telekinesis to close the garbage can, which infuriates the animal, who then starts to fight Jack. When Jack throws the raccoon away, it gets stuck in a chair, bursts into flames, and the boy sets fire to everything around it. Fortunately, the raccoon escapes before it turns into barbecue, and when Jack hits him with his laser beam, the raccoon immediately jumps on top of him. When Bob hears the noise, he tries to break up the battle, but the boy multiplies and fights the raccoon, who escapes. Bob makes an effort to rescue each copy. He is still terrified of his son, but pleased to see that his youngest also possesses superpowers. After a few minutes, Bob gets a call from Helen. She tells him about her mission and how she was able to save hundreds of people. By himself, upon hearing this, Bob feels happy for his wife but is disappointed with his own performance as a father. He then takes Dash and Jack to the room and goes to bed but is unable to fall asleep. Because he doesn't know arithmetic, the guy spends the night studying to educate his kid. The following morning, he wakes up Dash and assists him with his lesson before the boy leaves for school. That same day, Violet approaches Tony and inquires as to whether the boy has forgotten the movies. The young woman understands that he has no idea what she is talking about and claims that he doesn't even recognize her from the local news at this point. Elastigirl greets Ambassador Selleck on the TV screen. She is pleased to see the superheroine and expresses her gratitude for her return. Minutes later, Chad starts a live interview with Helen. However, a strange event occurs, and the presenter begins to utter odd things. Chad informs Elastigirl that he is in charge of the ambassador's helicopter, and the heroine races over to save her. Elastigirl quickly recognizes that this is another attack by the Screen Slaver, who controls people through screens he employs. Helen takes over when she boards the plane, destroys every monitor, and the pilots recover consciousness. Screensaver sends another aircraft to attack her, and Helen is forced to jump in with the ambassador because the woman cannot swim. Of the ship and knocks the employees into the sea while attempting to make a forced landing. The following day, Selleck passes out when they are finally secure. When Tony began to ignore Violet after learning of her secret identity during breakfast and pretended not to know her at the time, Violet's father informed her that he had ordered Rick to remove the young man's memory in order to keep the family secret. Violet becomes enraged at this and locks herself in her room. When she gets to Winston's workplace, Helen learns that her attempts to revive the heroic image are paying off because she has already won the ambassador's support. The woman, however, is unable to rejoice at this information because the Screen Slave is still at large and could cause more harm if you attempt to calm her down. As the first to introduce herself, the woman watches as Winston introduces her to the new heroes he has enlisted. Over the course of the following few hours, Elastigirl becomes a big fan of Helen, who subsequently meets all of her new co-workers while speaking with Evelyn. The main character devises a plan to capture the Screen Slave, and she enlists the aid of a new companion to carry it out. While Sway calls Rick and requests his assistance in uniting Violet and Tony once more, the man then, at that point, illuminates him that the kid functions as a part-time server at his folks' eatery, Cheerful Platter. The following day, Bounce takes his youngsters to lunch at this cafe, and Violet is surprised when she is served by Tony. The young lady gags on her glass of water, embarrassed, and covers her face while concocting a rationalization to go to the restroom. While conversing with Chad during a telephone interview, Helen utilizes a gadget created by Evelyn to follow the screensaver. The champion follows the sign and scales the structures until she tracks down the foes. Concealing spot Elastigirl slips her hand under the entryway and opens every one of the locks when she enters the condo. Helen starts to research, and out of nowhere, a man shows up behind her. The walls start to reflect like screens, and the courageous woman should shut her eyes while battling the foe all at once so as not to be mesmerized. The lowlife utilizes an immobilizer to kill her, then, at that point, escapes, but Elastigirl pursues him. The Screenslaver enacts the alarm, baiting individuals out of their homes. This fills in as an interruption so he can get away, yet eventually, the circumstance doesn't turn out true to form, and the Screenslaver is caught when he eliminates his veil. Helen finds that this person is a pizza delivery man who doesn't have any idea why he is being taken by the police while staring at the television. At the point when Bounce sees his vehicle being unloaded, he has the superhuman idea it is destroyed and unrecoverable, yet obviously he has been deluded. Disappointed, he goes for his controller and starts the vehicle from a good distance. Then, at that point, Ron takes the gadget and enacts the rocket launcher. Nonetheless, Bounce would rather not bring any sort of hardship while his better half is away, so he switches off the vehicle and forgoes recuperating the vehicle. Jack is on his lap when he takes off, flying in view of a sniffle, and winds up in Violet's room. The young lady takes off, terrified, when she sees a little pink beast pursuing her. The youths find that their more youthful sibling has additional superpowers. They start to question their dad, and Bounce goes nuts. He is totally depleted and doesn't have the foggiest idea how to manage so many things simultaneously. Jack subsequently sends him out of the house. The kid goes through the roof and falls into the pool, yet Mr. Fantastic is there to protect him, stressed over her dad. Violet chooses to call Lucius when he goes to visit the family. Jack finds another power and starts to magically transport around the house. We then, at that point, involves a treat as a snare to draw the child when Jack gets done with eating. His dad won't give him additional treats, and the kid transforms into a little evil presence when confronted with this odd circumstance. Lucius is giving Jack ice balls to eat while assisting his companion with thinking about an answer. That very day, Bounce takes the kid to Edna's home. She is irate in light of the fact that Elastigirl is done wearing the super outfit that the planner planned, but Edna consents to getting Sway and, after finding that Jack has superpowers, says she will make a unique uniform for him in the wake of seeing an example of the kid's superpowers. Edna requests that Sway leave the kid with her that evening and makes the commitment that everything will be prepared the following morning. In the meantime, Winston is setting up a super party at his house to celebrate the arrival of the superheroes. The tycoon reports that pioneers from more than 100 nations will meet on his boat that week to sign a settlement and bring the legends back into legitimate existence. After her acknowledgement discourse, Helen sees something peculiar on the screen. She goes looking through her miniature camera accounts and finds a picture that makes her uncertain that she got the right person. Evelyn shows up presently, and Elastigirl shows that one of the screenslave's screens is tuned to the camera on her outfit. In the wake of exploring the cover, she tracks down a couple of glasses and before long understands that they were being utilized to control the pizza conveyance. Man, understanding that she has been found, Evelyn pushes the glasses onto Helen's face and starts the following period of her arrangement. The following day, Violet carries espresso to her dad, who has quite recently stirred from a 17-hour rest now that he is revived. He gets his child from Edna's home, and the lady shows him how to utilize the new suit to contain the kid's superpowers through a little gadget. When Helen recaptures cognizance, she is caught in a seat in a chamber encompassed by ice. The lady attempts to eliminate her glasses, yet Evelyn exhorts her not to, as her bones could wind up breaking. Winston knows literally nothing about his sister's merciless arrangement and has no clue that it was she who made the screenslaver. Evelyn's thought is to utilize this innovation to obliterate unequivocally individuals' confidence in superheroes as vengeance for the passing of her dad, who depended on the legends to save him in the terrace of the new house. Sway shows his kids how to utilize the gadget that Edna has designed to keep Jack from gaining out of influence. All of a sudden, he gets a call from Evelyn, who gives Mr. Extraordinary the news that Helen is in peril. Quickly, the man requests that Lucius go stay with the youngsters while he gets into his suit and goes to the DevTech transport while scavenging through her dad's things for him. Ron tracks down the vehicle controller and Violet snatches her uniform to pursue her folks. Minutes after the fact, a gathering of mesmerized superheroes show up at the entryway and Frozone shows up presently. The man attempts to dispose of them while Ron begins his dad's vehicle, influenced quite a bit by the legends, break into the house and attempt to catch the youngsters. Frozone is quick to be gotten, and the youths turn out to be cornered anyway. Mr. Mind-Boggling's vehicle shows up in the nick of time and fills in as an interruption so the young people can get away from Lucius, is ultimately caught, and subsequent to putting on the glasses, is likewise constrained by Evelyn. When Bounce finds his better half, the lady assaults him, and during the battle, he figures out how to put the glasses on him, now with the greater part of the superheroes under her order. Evelyn can finish her central goal in the wake of getting away from the chateau. Violet and Ron understand that the superheroes were being controlled and choose to pursue their folks as they accept they are in a difficult situation following the kid's voice ordering the vehicle to change into a boat and take the triplets straight to the boat. Winston then invites the visitors and starts the function. Violet requests that her sibling watch Jack while she utilizes her imperceptibility to search for her folks. Minutes after the fact, the child vanishes and Ron needs to emerge from stowing away to search for him. Violet unintentionally thumps over a prune plant and is seen by Void. They get into a battle, and the lady nearly figures out how to gain her influence glasses on the young lady anyway. Violet wrecks her and figures out how to dispose of her when the siblings meet. They utilize the gadget to follow the most youthful and find that Jack is in a lift. Evelyn sends Elastigirl and Mr. Unimaginable to the visitor room, and Winston invites Representative Selleck to be quick to consent to the Global Legends arrangement when Violet finds Jack the Kid ablaze and she utilizes the gadget to extinguish the fire. One of the superheroes hears the commotion and pursues them. Crusoe utilizes his powers to catch the three siblings, yet Jack transforms into a monster child and figures out how to take them out. The kid breaks his control gadget and runs off across the boat, frantic, and his siblings attempt to get him back before something terrible happens. The consent to the global arrangement is being communicated all around the world, and Evelyn utilizes this valuable chance to discredit the Legend's standing. Elastigirl delivers a peculiar discourse against humankind, and afterward the transmission is intruded on. Everybody is terrified by those words, yet the most obviously awful is the way the threesome goes to the control room and assumes control over the boat. They redirect the boat's course toward the city, and Mr. Unbelievable annihilates the control board so nobody can adjust the direction startlingly. Jack shows up in the room and uses his supernatural powers to eliminate his mom's control glasses. Now that Helen is free, she figures out how to free Lucius, and we the superheroes need to figure out how to stop that boat, and Violet gives her mom the old ensemble. Unexpectedly, other superheroes attack the room, and Elastigirl finds that her child has superpowers. Continually, the group figures out how to remove the glasses from their partners and free them from Evelyn's control. With the assistance of the Void's entrances, Helen figures out how to get onto the fly and attempts to arrive at the control lodge when Elastigirl goes into the room. Evelyn removes the oxygen stream, and Helen utilizes a flare to shoot the lady with the glass. Broken oxygen enters the boat, and the champion revisits the need to save Evelyn since the boat's order has been annihilated. Violet has the plan to alter the boat's direction physically and redirect it to the other side of the city in the wake of joining himself to the anchor chains. Sway bounces into the water. The man requests that Run press the button and pull him back in when he figures out how to turn the boat around. Winston annihilates the screen that was being utilized to entrance the visitors and orders everybody to go to the back of the boat. Run pulls his dad back, yet the boat keeps on moving at rapid speed. The boat attacks the city, yet Frozone freezes the sea and figures out how to stop it before significant harm is done. As a thank you for saving the town, the appointed authority pronounces the Legend's action lawful when she gets back to school. Violet attempts to draw nearer to Tony once more. Weeks after the fact, 2 or 3 people meet for a film, and Violet acquaints the kid with her whole family when they show up before the Foundation. The Legends understand that a burglary is occurring, and then Violet requests that Tony save space for herself and says that she will be back before the trailers run out, and Sway's vehicle changes, right then and there. The Incredible family prepares to save the town once again, the difference being that now they are acting within the law. So what did you think of this movie? Let us know in the comments below, and if you liked the video, like it and subscribe for more movie reviews and recaps. See you next time.